basically do the same thing, which is reduce the inflammation. Now, sometimes these can have a permanent effect, and they can cause the disc material to shrink back up and stop the pain from happening. Okay, so if that happens and you get relief from that, then your case is not worth sort of as much as it would be if you needed these different surgical procedures that I'm about to mention. If you get all these injections and you go to therapy and we're dealing with an unlimited amount of insurance, then I can see your case settling for up to $75,000. If you go to trial, you might be able to get more than that, but again, you're running the risk of the other side appealing the jury's decision, and then what can happen is that the appellate court can reduce the award, and again, this stretches out the whole process and makes it take longer, and then in the end, you could risk losing money and them not even paying you if you did get that, if the defendant got a reduction in the amount that was awarded by the jury. Now, getting back to the specific injuries to the disc and to the disc material. So there are basically four types of surgeries that you could have that involve the spinal cord and the discs. The first surgery is called a percutaneous discectomy. And this is where the doctor goes in with a thick needle, inserts that needle into the disc material, the intervertebral disc is the technical name for it, and then they withdraw some of the fluid out of the disc. The idea is to compress the disc in order to reduce the size of the disc that could be putting pressure on the nerve roots or the spinal cord, which is causing the pain. Now, that is considered to be a minimally invasive type of surgery. However, that surgery generally settles for about $150,000 to $200,000. The next type of surgery involving the disc would be a more open discectomy, but it's not quite as open as making an incision. It's also done minimally invasively, but instead of just withdrawing the disc material with a large needle, a piece of the disc is actually cut out. So if you took a jelly donut and you cut off a piece of the disc, usually it's the piece of the disc that's putting pressure on the spinal cord or the nerve roots. And again, this is designed to eliminate or reduce the pressure and therefore reduce the pain. That particular surgery is more invasive, and that is worth more like $250,000 to $350,000. The third type of surgery in this same area is called an open discectomy, and that's done when the minimally invasive discectomy is not possible because of some reason that the doctor is unable to get the camera into the spinal area because of probably the position of the area that they want to cut is not conducive to putting a camera in there. So they have to actually cut open the person's back and go in and cut out the piece of disc that is causing the problem. Again, that is a much more invasive surgery. It requires more time in the hospital. It requires more type of cutting, and that ends up being worth more money, more in the neighborhood of $350,000 to $750,000. The next type of back surgery is where they would replace the disc replacement surgery, which is fairly new, and they will literally pull out the old disc and insert the new disc, which is made of like a silicone substance. And the results of that type of surgery are not exactly studied and known to the degree degree that the other two that I was talking to you about are. But that is a very invasive surgery that has to be done with an incision. You're taking out a whole disc material. You're inserting an artificial disc, and the results can be unknown. So the bottom line is that is a surgery that is worth probably closer to $1 million, maybe $1.2 million, because it's really not known how the results are going to end up with that type of surgery. Now, the third or the next type of surgery that's most aggressive with respect to the vertebrae in the back is called spinal fusion surgery. And that surgery is worth anywhere from $1 million to $2 million, depending on a number of different factors. However, that's a very serious surgery, okay, because you're literally slicing the person open with a scalpel. You're taking out the entire old disc, and you're taking the bones and fusing them together with a combination of cement and with metal and screws. And so that's a permanent type of surgery that's going to reduce the person's mobility, make it hard for them to move around, and with all the screws and the metal inside of you can cause problems. And it's, generally speaking, something done as a last resort. So that's a very difficult, complicated surgery. And we settled the case with Mr. Alam last year for about $1.75 million with that type of surgery. That was the gentleman that slipped and fell in the Target store. So now there are a variety of other types of treatments that a person can get, and the value of those treatments is dependent on, like I said, how the person healed and how the person has been unable to do their normal activities, how it's affected their recreational life, their personal life, their love life. All these factors go into determining the value of the case. So, moving on to the next phase of settling a case. The next phase of settling a case is after you come up with the value and you discuss it with your attorney or me or whoever it is, then you have to start talking about the negotiating process. Now, you can never go to a defense attorney or an insurance company and tell them that you want a certain amount and have them give you that amount. I don't think that's ever happened in the world of negotiating. So the question becomes, what's a reasonable amount to ask for that will hopefully get you at or close to your desired result? And generally, as a rule of thumb, we at least ask for double what we're looking for, sometimes more, because the negotiating process is one in which, again, depending on who you're dealing with, the insurance company, the adjuster, the lawyer, the state of New York, the city of New York, everybody has a different attitude and approach to this, you know. And the city of New York, they try to get away with things, doing things pretty cheaply. So, you know, a case that we feel with 2 surgeries is going to be worth at least a minimum of $300,000 will demand $600, and they'll come back with $100, and they'll try to settle that case with 2 surgeries for $150 or $175. But we would never do that. We would never ever settle a case with good liability, and good liability is a factor, meaning that the defective condition or the cause of the malpractice was viewed as something that should not have happened in the course of regular doing business and living. So if you have a case with good liability, and we talked a little bit about this before, if the client themselves has some sort of responsibility or what they call culpable conduct, and the case is a 2 surgery